the highest burst damage you could possibly get on Draven, but oh my god. Okay, so like this isn't even the best that it gets, guys. It gets better. Okay, so where is it? Okay. So they're having another fight at Baron. I missed it. Okay, so he gets grabbed with, let's see, LeBlanc and Caitlyn are there. So he kills LeBlanc, flashes the grab, stand aside on Blitzcrank, uses his ultimate on Caitlyn, and then kills Caitlyn. 1v3! 1v3, he kills LeBlanc and Caitlyn and lives.
Yeah, that's Draven when you get fed.
Like, oh my god. So yeah, that's Slackt's Draven, guys. Anyway, what were we talking about?
I think we're talking about bans.
Okay, yeah, so you would ban Draven, and then you were listing some other things too.
Kha'Zix, Yasuo, and then junglers, sometimes I'll ban Vi, sometimes I'll ban Elise. They're both really strong. But yeah, besides that, I mean, with 4.2, there's less of like you need to ban these 3 people, and more kind of like these like 6 are all like pretty strong, and you should probably ban some of them.
Yeah, I actually am still banning Ziggs and Kayle, even though they've had some changes, just because I feel like it's hard to close games against that kind of wave clear. So that's what I've been banning personally. I also like to ban Leona because I don't like playing Leona.
I still see a lot of in Challenger. I still see a lot of Thresh bans. Actually, I don't see many Leona bans or Ziggs bans. Sometimes I'll see a Gragas ban.
I actually feel like the reason for that is because Thresh kind of counters Leona, and Leona's really popular. So like they'll ban Thresh with the intention of picking Leona.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, when Thresh is banned and the other team picks Leona, I really don't know what to play.
Yeah,
because there's nothing that is really as strong as Leona or Thresh, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, although definitely.
Lulu, maybe we should actually talk about Lulu right now.
Okay.
Lulu got buffed in 4.1, I believe.
Well, Lulu's kind of been consistently changed since the beginning of Season 4, but she did get hold on, let me actually pull up the 4.1 patch notes. She did get a change in 4.1 that was a boost to AP Lulu.
Yeah.
They've been kind of moving towards like helping out AP Lulu, I think.
Mm-hmm. And so we've been seeing a lot more Lulu mids lately, and yeah, I remember the patch because before she got buffed, I was like, oh yeah, I actually played Lulu. I usually don't play Lulu, but I was just like experimenting, and I was like, oh yeah, actually Lulu's pretty strong. And then she got buffed, and I'm like, what? Like seriously?
Yeah. Well, I remember she got nerfed at first at the beginning of Season 4, and then I think they kind of buffed her to account for that, but she wasn't even weak with the nerfs because of her. Yeah. She just has so much utility. And I actually have a couple things that I want to say about Lulu because she was actually one of our discussion topics. So yeah, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, like, then she got buffed after I already thought she was really strong, and so you've been seeing these Lulu mids just because Lulu in general is just so strong. When you build AP on her, it's kind of like ridiculous because it's not really that she has that great of damage output. She's got about a normal amount of damage output for an AP mid, I'd say. Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, you get this ridiculously huge shield from one of her abilities, and then her speed increase, which also scales off of AP, because that's like the new thing they're doing with supports, is like they'll scale card control abilities off of AP.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're scaling any stuns on AP, but I know they're scaling like movement speed on AP a lot.
Yeah, like her Lulu's W's movement speed scales off of AP, and you can get like a speed boost twice as strong as a Talisman of Ascension right now when you have like a fed AP Lulu.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually 4.1, by the way. That was the change. I don't know when it was, but yeah, I do remember these changes.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not necessarily her damage output that's making AP Lulu so strong in mid lane, but it's also just her utility is ridiculous. That and her slow from her Q gets like absurd late game.
Yeah. So actually, as far as my own opinions about Lulu is the way I feel about her. You know how I've been talking about how like wave clear is so strong, and it doesn't surprise me to see Lulu in the mid because she has that wave clear, and like basically the reason we're seeing a lot of Kayle picked is the same reason we're seeing a lot of Lulu picked. Which is that she can clear the wave really effectively, and you know the one strategy that works really well against siege comps, which is diving and pick comps, you can't do that against Lulu because of her ultimate. So and like how good she is defensively, and the way I feel about Lulu is she's kind of right now just like better Kayle. So she's a much better lane bully than Kayle. She has way better utility. Her wave clear is just as good. And like she just does everything that Kayle does better, this ridiculous lane bully. So I mean that's how really I feel about Lulu. It's just like she fits the metagame so perfectly, and like you know whether she's support or mid, I think she's equally strong in both. It's just like so hard to play against Lulu.
Mm-hmm. I can foresee a Lulu nerf coming very shortly.
Yeah, no doubt
I'm
about
guessing
it.
within the next patch or two they're going to change something about her.
Yeah. So, what was... Yeah, definitely. Lulu is really strong in the mid lane. So those are kind of... You were kind of talking about things that you ban a lot, and people were asking about that. And they specifically wanted to hear about Kassadin. They were saying that his win rate has kind of gone down in solo queue, but actually it hasn't. While you were speaking, I was kind of going to LOL King and pointing out that his win rate is still above 50%. It's still really high. I feel like the thing about Kassadin is he hasn't been nerfed that much. A lot of the things that are strong about him are still strong, and if you've ever seen like XPK or just any really good Kassadin player, you would understand why Kassadin's getting banned, because he just gets to this late game point where he can kill anybody and it's impossible to answer because he silences you and slows you, and by the time the silence wears off his ultimate's ready again and he can just get away or kill you probably. And like it's
say,
just
on top of that, on top of his like pretty good team fight, he has pretty much unlimited catch potential, and he's got pretty much unlimited like running away potential too. So
yeah, it's definitely it's just like even though he has like kind of weak early game, you know, he can get past it relatively easily, and you know it just gets to this point where once Kassadin gets rolling, there's nothing you can do about it at all. And I actually remember Kassadin was ridiculously overpowered in Dominion for the longest time, and they had to do a lot of nerfs to him to balance him. But I feel like right now the biggest problem is the silence duration, which actually on PBE I think they have the silence duration reduced
down to 1 second.
Yeah, it's like actually really ridiculously long. But it just makes it with the silence so hard to answer him. Like basically the only thing you can do is like once he ults in on you, you have about half a second to react before you get hit by the silence, and then you're just done for.
Yeah. And
So
another thing about Kassadin, I feel like he's particularly strong in solo queue because he's really good at like catching people out and making picks like during the mid game when he's like roaming around. And since solo queue is a lot less organized, you have a lot more people running around by themselves in the jungle. Like you have a lot more people not really paying attention. There's like a lot more potential to make plays like that and catch people out and get fed as Kassadin. Whereas team fights, I don't think, or in ranked 5s, I mean, I don't think Kassadin is as strong in ranked 5s just because it's so much more organized, and you're not going to be able to catch like 5 people out as Kassadin and get super fed like as easily. But
yeah,
he's still like really, really strong just because of all the points we've already mentioned.
yeah, he actually has a higher win rate in ranked 5s. I think I mentioned that, but just Kassadin.
Yeah.
How does he work?
There's one thing you take away from this: ban Kassadin.
So yeah. So let's see. There was another question in the chat. We're doing a lot of questions. I like this. The interaction thing is awesome.
Yeah.
And even next time, maybe I'll bring Azelos in here too, because he has some really good insights.
Cobbler asked about what mid laners you think are going to come into the meta.
Yeah. So actually, do you mind if I talk about this first?
Yeah, go
Because
for it.
mid lane is kind of interesting in that it's really unpredictable. But right now, because somebody brings something into solo queue and suddenly people start playing like, oh, Riven, Faker played Riven in NA, and then all of a sudden Riven's like a top mid pick, and like somebody played Lulu in a competitive game, and all of a sudden it's a top mid pick. But right now the thing that I see that is going to be really significant as far as what's strong is what I've been talking about a lot, which is wave clear. Anything that can clear minion waves really quickly, and which doesn't have a weak lane phase. So like right now I actually wouldn't be surprised to maybe see some Soraka mid, although it's a little bit low on CC, so maybe not. Syndra is really Syndra just comes down to if somebody is a good Syndra, then they'll play it, but otherwise not really. It's not like she's really weak or anything. But who else can I foresee? A lot of people were picking Karma for a while in mid, which we could see come back. Lissandra for sure is good because she has pick potential as well, and she's actually surprisingly good at clearing waves. Against like a Gragas, I can see Lissandra being really strong because even after he uses his explosive casks, she can still get away. The fact that her ranges are a little bit short doesn't hurt her as much against Gragas. And like her roaming potential and her pick potential are just ridiculously strong. For the longest time, actually, I've been hearing people talk about Kog'Maw mid, which it would be AP Kog'Maw, and that makes a lot of sense to me because he, can poke from range really effectively. He would work well in these kind of siege comps, and he wave clears really well, or at least even just stalls out the creep wave with his little slow field. Maybe Galio, although I feel like Galio has some issues that they probably need to figure out. Like his ultimate is kind of really easy to deal with right now because it's so easy to cancel. But things like that I would not be surprised to see come into the mid lane at all. Even actually AD mids are something that I really loved seeing in OGN when like the KT Bullets were picking them up. So those are another thing that I would look out for personally. But it just comes down to what competitive players are picking up. Like what at the highest level does someone like randomly try out and then it turns out to be really good. So, but what do you think, Zealot, as far as mid laners?
I'm gonna have to disagree with pretty much everything you just said.
Really, really.
Yeah, I think the mid lane. I think there's gonna be a transition here from like the mid lane picks that you've been talking about a lot with like the really good wave clear like Ziggs, Lulu, people like that. I think there's gonna be that kind of that transition into more bursty mid laners like LeBlanc, Veigar. I think Gragas is still gonna be really strong just because of his burst.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of already seeing that a little bit because Kha'Zix has become a really popular pick.
Yeah. I think generally any mid lane champion with a really strong burst is going to become pretty popular.
So maybe back to the assassin meta a little bit,
yeah,
although with maybe different picks. Actually, on that note, probably Ahri would fit perfectly into that. I feel like...
yeah, but Ahri's just so weak right now.
Yeah.
She's got like really big mana problems is the thing with Ahri. But
I mean, once you get Athenes, that's not as much of an issue.
But then you don't have the damage if you go Athenes. So
yeah, that's true. When she was popular, they were DFG Ahri. But actually, I'm gonna disagree with you there as well because in Korea we're seeing LeBlancs be really successful rushing Athenes. So I mean the Athenes rush Ahri doesn't seem like that much of a stretch to me.
Interesting.
But I mean, of course, with the Ahri, she's going to be much more reliant on landing the charm, or she loses a lot of damage. But we both seem to disagree on that. Probably, he's the challenger guy. I'm the guy who spends all my time actually thinking about these things. So you can you can decide who to agree with.
Yeah, it'll also come down to what champions are nerfed and what champions are buffed too. Because if they nerf LeBlanc, obviously I don't think you're going to see as much of her. But if LeBlanc doesn't get nerfed soon, I think that she's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing LeBlanc